Hello and welcome to the third demo video for the Marketing Hub. This is a free spreadsheet which we give away, and this is the third video specifically about the data input tab. Now this data input tab is going to be used for all of the different social media analytics data. So you've got your Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, potentially MailChimp. Now I've put it as newsletter, not MailChimp, because I'll show you how I've used MailChimp, so I'll show you the data involved. But whichever newsletter you use, you should be able to pull the respective data. Now, there's lots of settings and things on this tab to make sure it's working correctly. And I'm going to show you why I've done it like this. It looks a little more complicated than it needs to, but I've tried to future-proof it. Because what happens is normally you'll get your Facebook data, and Facebook are notorious. Every single time you download the data, they've added columns and removed columns and changed things. And you have to remake the spreadsheet if you make the spreadsheet accept it exactly. So what I've done instead is actually create this kind of table where you can paste the data in, and you can see it goes on for a while, grave it. So it's got enough room for all the data to fit. It's not, the data's not going to take up all of it, but then you can make settings to show it where to look for that data. So let me just give you an idea. Here are the data sets that I've got from all the different social media platforms. So this one is YouTube, this one is LinkedIn, this one is Twitter, and so on and so forth. But let me show you the common denominator in all of these. They've all got headings across the top. They've all got the data in down in columns. And if you can have a look on all of them, this one's got, for example, the video title. Now, all of this data is data I've exported in January of 2020. So January of 2020, this is the data that I've exported from all these different platforms. How do you get the data in the platforms? Simply have a look here and follow those brief instructions. Facebook Insights, export data, post data, date range, so on and so forth. I'll update these as we go along. If I see these have changed, if you've noticed they've changed, please let me know so I can change these. But we'll change those instructions, but that's how you get the data. What you're looking for is a data for that particular month, where all the data, the posts or videos or whatever it is you're looking for, are all listed down the side, and all the data is across. So you've got things like views and subscriptions and clicks and impressions and all the rest of it. So if you have a look, YouTube, yes, if we start with YouTube, yes, you've got that. If you move on to the next one, LinkedIn, there are all the posts. Here's all the information across the width. So we've got the right information. Let's have a look at Twitter. Here are all the posts all the way down. And yes, you've got all the engagement, replies, likes, hashtags, all the rest of it. Let's have a look at the next one. These are the newsletters. So we've got all the newsletters, and we've got all the recipients and all the figures across the width. So those are the newsletters. And then lastly, Facebook. So here are the Facebook posts from January. Now, as we said in the intro and settings video, all of these data sets, when I download them from the different platforms, they are all showing me only what happened. They're all showing me the posts that were posted in January. So Facebook, for argument's sake, only shows me the posts that were posted in January. These, you can see their posts. Okay, it's American data. It's all the ones posted in January. When it comes to lifetime reach and all the rest of it, it doesn't matter which month this happened. So if I download the data for January in January, at the end of January, it might be different if I download it at the end of March, for example, because more likes and things may have happened. So, but when I download January, it's only giving me the posts from January. That is why, if we go back to settings, I've got these set as only use current data, because it's only going to look at the current data. It's going to override whatever it's got currently and go, this is the new stuff, because that's January, it's the latest stuff we've got. The problem with that is YouTube throws a spanner in the works. Let's just go and have a look at YouTube. These videos, you can see I posted these. These are from years back. So you're wondering why they're in here. But the problem is YouTube shows only what happened in January. So this particular video here had 152 views in January, and that is the problem. The problem with this particular data set is it's showing you what happened in January regardless of when those posts were actually posted. And that's the problem. So if I do this in January and I do it again in February, I don't want it to override January's figures with February's figures because they're new figures. I wanted to add what happened in February onto what happened in January, if that's in fact how the data works, and I believe that is how it works. So you need to have a look and see what data you're getting. If every month you're getting new figures that happened that month, then you want to select the add current data to existing. But if you're getting the figures over many months for the posts posted in that month, then only use current data. You can select which one by just selecting the drop down list. So yeah, I hope that that's clear. But now we've got the data sets and you want to put the data into the input. So let's just do one of those ones now, and then I can show you how it works. Let's do Facebook. Now, the other thing you need to be aware of is what you need are the headers and then the data. Sometimes there's another column, something like Facebook or something may have another column in here with some other text or whatever, or it might have a column, a row here with some text or a row above there. If you've got anything like that, just come and delete it, because honestly, you don't need that. All you need is the header and the data. So if you select that, so if I start here, Shift Control down, Shift Control right. So I've got everything. Include the headers in my copy. Come back here. Start in the top left. Right click, paste values. Now you can see they turn gray just to show you that where the data is. You can see it says Facebook and there's a green tick. That means it knows it's Facebook data. It knows what all the data is and what it's accounted for, and it's all happy. How does it know that? Well, you need to set it up, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But when you know that, when it knows the data, so if that says Facebook and it's got a tick, it means it recognizes the data and it's got everything it needs. Then you can just go to Facebook, and now is to say their active platform, and now you'll see over here you've actually got the calculated data in there. And none of them have turned up green because they match with this. If we were to go and clear this data, so like we start and you'll see those ones will all be green saying, oh, we've got changes here. Right click, copy, make sure you're in the same place, right click, paste values, and then it changes because now it goes, yep, you've got your updated Facebook information. Once you've done that copy and paste, then you don't need the data anymore. You can come back to the data input, you can select what you put in, and you can clear contents. Voila, done. Now you're ready for the next one. So now you can put the next one in. Now there is something that you need to just remember while you're doing this. You also want to have the content data in, because this supplies the data here for the number of clicks. You don't have to run these at the same time. You can do the social media first and then the clicks. Just remember, if you are just doing the social media, just copy these two columns and paste values across here. Don't do the third one, because these two columns and these two will come from your data input, and this one here will come from your content, Google Analytics. So it makes sense to run the two at the same time, but you don't have to. Just make sure you're copying and pasting the right thing. Now, the last question on this page, hopefully you haven't got any more. Sorry, before we go on to that, well, you do them all exactly the same. So when we come here, for example, for LinkedIn, we get the headers, copy, we come back here, LinkedIn with a tick, it understands. Sometimes it doesn't show the colors straight away. When you go off the page, you see here, there's the calculated data, and again, if this wasn't here, we do the copy and paste values. So if this wasn't here, let's say we had the clicks already because we've already done the Google Analytics data, but we didn't have the impressions, and you'll see the impressions engagement. Then we just simply come and do those two columns, not the third one. Right click, paste values. If everything here goes white, that means that you've got everything up to date, so that's fine. So that's it. You go through and do all of them exactly the same. YouTube, Twitter, newsletter, they're all exactly the same. come here and you can clear the data, and then you're ready for the next batch of data. So you're essentially using this just to temporarily hold the data so you can get those figures. Once you've got the figures pasted across, you can clear the data and you're good to go. So how does it know that it's Facebook data and LinkedIn data and Twitter data? If you scroll across to the right-hand side, you'll see here, let's not go too far. You'll see here you've got the various bits of information. So I'll get back to this post ID removal. You need to come here and select what is the header for each of these different things. So you want to have a post name, you want to have an ID for your post, some kind of ID that confirms that that post is in fact, every post given a unique ID number on Facebook and Twitter and the likes. So that's your post ID. Then you need to say, what do you want to count as views? Because the spreadsheet's going to show impressions and engagement. So what do you want as views, i.e. impressions? What do you want as impressions? And what do you want to class as engagement? Because they've obviously all got different data that they're working with. So let's put the Facebook data back in, and let me show you how that works. If I take the Facebook data, copy, when you paste data in here, so when you paste in the first time, this isn't going to show up as Facebook because it's not going to know what it is. So how does it know that this is actually Facebook data? Let's scroll across and I'll show you towards the right hand side. We've got these columns here. Now this is the data that it collects in order to make the spreadsheet work. So from the bulk of the data, it's ignoring a lot of it. All it's collecting is the post, i.e. the actual text from the post, excuse me, your post ID, which is as lean an ID as possible. So some of the IDs, as you'll see in a minute, will actually come with a whole long string of text, but we want to narrow that down to the actual clean post ID. When I say clean, I mean as fewer characters as possible. The post dates, we need to know obviously when the dates when they were posted. This is just for checking up whether we've got all the right information or not. And then we've got two columns where we can collect all of the values that total up to the impressions. And we've got 5 columns where we can collect all of the data that total up the engagements. So sometimes you may have total clicks or lifetime engaged users in the raw data, but sometimes you need to add clicks and likes and comments and shares, etc. So you want to be able to select a few in order to tally up. So this up here are all the headings that you're looking for on all the different social media channels. So when I paste Facebook in, it starts looking for the Facebook headers that I've selected. When it finds them, it checks through all these headers and goes, this looks like Facebook because I found most of the Facebook headers. And as you can see, they've gone green, which means those headers are actually in the header column. So when you paste your data, make sure that you paste the headers in the gray and the tick and the data in the section below, because it looks along that gray column, that gray row, sorry, and it checks to see what the headers are, and it marries them up with the headers that are here and goes, yep, we've got everything, we know that this is Facebook. If they're all green, it'll give a tick. If one of them is missing, it'll give a cross. In fact, the other thing is when you can select the headers. So because we've got Facebook data in now, it's all the Facebook headers. So don't go selecting LinkedIn headers now because they're not going to work. You need to select the Facebook header. So you can choose which header is the post data, which header is the post ID data, etc., etc. So I've chosen these. So for example, the post ID, post dates and stuff, that's going to be fairly straightforward. Impressions and engagements, you may want to pick different things to what I'm picking. I might pick, for example, organic impressions. You may want all impressions. I might pick unique impressions. You may want all of them. It depends. So you may have different options. You can choose up to 2 columns of data that you're going to add together to have impressions. You only need to use 1, and you can also choose up to 5 columns of data that you're going to use as the engagement values that are all going to be added together. So you just select each one, but only select the headers, as I said, when you've got that respective data supplier data in here. So let's just put in, I'm going to do something you shouldn't do, so don't do this. I'm going to select posted under LinkedIn. It doesn't do anything now because the LinkedIn data is not here. But let me now go and actually put that LinkedIn data in to show you what I mean by if something's not right. Let's just clear that. Let's get the LinkedIn data and let's put that in. copy. So if something changes when you paste that in, you see it says LinkedIn and it's done the cross. Now the cross means it recognizes as LinkedIn data because a lot of the headers match, but there is one header that's not right. So then all you do, if you see that, if you paste in the data, and I'm not talking about the first time. The first time you're going to have to do all the headers and select the right things. When you paste it in the second time, you shouldn't have to do this because it knows everything. But if you see a cross, that means something's changed. So we scroll across here to see. There we go. It's red. So what the red one means is it can't find posted as the post dates. So then all I do is I go to the LinkedIn data and I have a look and see what is the actual post date. And the post date is the created date. So let's just have a look and make sure that there's nothing else. Yep, that's it, created date. So let's go to the created date and let's change that post date to created date. There are the dates. It knows what's going on. And if we scroll back here again, it gives us the green tick to say yes, it's got all the data and it understands what's going on. So that is in essence what you do. So each time you do it, scroll across here, have a look at what you've entered. Make sure you've got the right details for each of these headers for each of those sets of data, but only select the headers when you've got that respective data pasted into here. The second thing you need to do, obviously, I mentioned about the post IDs and that those numbers are as clean as possible. If we actually have a look at the LinkedIn post ID, this is it here. See, it's got that website link first, and then only does it start with a number. So all I want is the number. If you have this situation with any of the items where your number is preceded by some long bit of text, sometimes in Facebook it's preceded by another number, in LinkedIn it's preceded by this link, all you do is you copy that part of the link. So you copy that, not the number, you copy everything other than up to the number, on the left of the number, copy, and when I click enter it's going to turn into a link, but that doesn't matter. When I go back to your marketing hub, I pasted that in there. So I go there, come to the top bar over here, I go paste because I pasted text, I paste it into the bar and enter. So that then gets removed from the text string to give me the post ID. So whatever you put in here will be removed. If, for example, Twitter just has the ID, it doesn't have anything else, and just leave it blank because it knows the ID. Facebook, as I said, it's got that long number before your ID. So whatever comes before the ID, if you paste it in there, it will remove it from the post ID and leave you with whatever's left as a nice clean post ID. So I hope that makes sense. There's also a lot to take in, but as you get used to this, it does get easier over time. And as I said, once you've done the initial setup, you shouldn't have to do it again. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Do have a look at the videos for the different social media platforms. I'll explain a bit more there, but I hope that you understand how this one's set up. Thank you and goodbye.